Okay, we're at the multiple setting tab now. And the description of this section is telling us that this is where we will arrange the layout that we created over here in this edit designs mode, or maybe that we even created up here. But anyway, someplace where we have already created a layout. And we're going to arrange that layout to create a design, and we're going to optimize that design to fit the size of a quilt or an area of a quilt. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So this time when we open it up, unlike the other times where we automatically got to select and edit embroidery area size, this time it's looking for a file. And it's going to be looking for the file in the last place that you saved something or opened something up from. So I was on my USB stick in my EMB folder, and the folder that I was actually in the last time I did this was something called new folder. I didn't even give it a new name. So I'm opening up my new folder. You know that I put a bunch of stuff in there, but nothing is showing up. The reason why is because the file type that this program is first of all looking for is a .afl, which is an Acufil file. And none of the designs that I saved so far were that format. They were all saved as JPX. Remember, we talked about that in the first video. So I'm just going to click the down arrow and select JPX, and I'm going to choose the one that I want to work with here. So basically, number one, Daisy, was the one that was centered in the middle of a big hoop. And the number two, Daisy, was the one where I actually had made it a little bit, I had centered that area a little bit. So let's go ahead and open number two, JPX. And this was the size of it. Remember, it was 72 by 220. So we've got a minimum and a maximum of area that we can fill here. The minimum is 65 millimeters wide. And this is actually, I think, the brains in the computer in this program is actually adjusting this depending on how much it's actually able to adjust the size of a pattern. All right, so in other words, this 72 millimeter wide pattern can't be adjusted any narrower than 65. So let's just make it 65. Let's see what happens to it. We're not going to change the height of it at this point. Let's just leave it as it is, okay? And let's say okay. You can see that my little design changed on the screen. Let's go back to the next, and if you will remember what my daisies looked like a little while ago, now you're going to notice that they're narrower. They got squished down to 65 millimeters wide. All right, so that's how you can make an adjustment to a pattern to make it fit into a specific area on a project. Let's go back to previous and let's play with that editing size just a little bit more. How about if this time, instead of it being 75, let's take it all the way up to 90. Okay, now let's say okay. Say, is that going to adjust things? Yeah, and I'm glad that one of the messages that comes up here is that there's going to be some empty space on the fabric. Do I want to accept it? And otherwise, now that the design gets to be 11 millimeters wide, it's changing something. So let's just see how it changed it. I'm curious. Yeah, it made it a little bit wider. You can see that it's a little bit wider in dimension here. How about if we change it again? We're just playing, right? So let's take it back down to its 75 that originally was. Let's change the height of it this time. Instead of it being 220, let's take it down to, how about 190? And I'm probably going to get a message. It's not going to let me do it. It's making them too small. So instead of 220, let's take it to 210 and see if that changes it. Will it let it? Change the hoop. Next, yep, you can see here I've got some space up here at the top and at the bottom of my hoop. Again, what it's done is it has adjusted the size according to those dimensions that we changed there. So let's come back to the design. This design could now be sent on over to our embroidery machine, onto our USB stick, and it'd be ready to sew. So anyway, I hope that those are some interesting things for you. What we're going to work on next is I'm going to go back to my start page. We're going to work with this multiple. I think we'll work with the edit design again. We're going to start off with a full hoop. And I think I'm going to open up some embroidery designs here. Let's go ahead and go to Home Decor and let's open up Which one looks interesting, girls? Let's go with that. Oh, wow, that's really big. Big enough. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to come back up to my design tab, and this time we're going to use some stippling parts. Just wanted to demonstrate these little doodads to you. Let's say, for example, we want to use the AFL version of this little squiggle here in the middle of the hoop. When it's a single design, you're not going to notice anything different about it. But once I have copied and pasted it, notice that it now has these little circles at the beginning and the end. I'm going to undo. All right, so it's a single design. You don't see anything different about it. All right, I'm selecting it. I'm copying and pasting it. And now that has the beginning and the ending things. And what those are is that's the connecting points that I was mentioning earlier, where it will eliminate the tie-ins and the tie-offs. So let's zoom in on this so we can get a nice close view of it. And all you do is you drag them together and you just make sure that the circles overlap one another. All right, let's select this one and let's go ahead and copy and paste that one. Again, little circles appear. There it is. And we can just make ourselves a whole little string of these little things and do whatever we want with them. So that's how those little AFL files work here in this program. I'm going to select all three. I think that's all I need of them. Let's change the color. Oh, I would have to change them individually. So we'll just leave it like that. Let's move these over just a little bit. And what I wanted to experiment with a little bit on here is zoom out. Because I am just plain, I'm going to copy and paste them. And I'm going to drag them down to the bottom part of the screen. And my next little thing that I want to work with actually here is I'm just going to, it'd be cute if I did a whole border all the way around here, but I don't want to spend the time doing that actually. So remember that what I'm doing here is I'm going to create a design that next, why is it giving me a preview here? Oh, I'm going to say okay. And I'm going to write this design to my card. Let's call this one AFLs. Because we were playing with AFL stitches. And let's send it over. Okay. Now that has been saved, so let's start the page again. And this time let's use that in a multiple setting. Again, it's looking for a design that's an AFL. We want to look for the JPX version of it. There it is. We shall open it. The editing size is in the 220 by 220 hoop. This time let's adjust this down. Let's take it all the way down to 198 because I want to squish it down just to see if it looks a little bit different here. We'll leave the height as it is. Hoop size changed a little bit. Let's look at it narrow. And you can see, what used to be a very much more square little scrolly design here in the middle is now kind of squished down a little bit more narrow. You can see that, right? And, not quite so obvious with the little squiggles here, but this is now our new design areas where these dotted lines are at. So I'm hoping that that's making some sense to you and why and how you might want to create some designs that you might then want to have to adjust the size to fit a designated area. And that's what this section, multiple setting, is all about. Okay, so that's about it for these different elements of the Acufil tool, and I hope that you all learned a lot and that you are anxious to play around with it yourself. So have fun with it, and thanks for watching the videos. Bye for now.